Alright everybody, we are going to be making some artwork inspired by Jasper Johns. I know, so exciting. So, flip to a clean page in your sketchbook or get a clean piece of paper out. And what you're going to do is you're going to need a pencil and a Sharpie to start. So the first thing you're going to do is you are going to make a 4 square on your paper. So you're going to make like a T, lowercase t, a plus sign, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to do, and you can get out a ruler if you want to measure, but I'm not going to measure. I'm going to go about halfway, doesn't need to be perfect, and then halfway in the middle. Now what you're going to do is we are going to make this into an even smaller grid by putting another plus inside of each of these squares. But we're not going to do it by just drawing a plus sign in each of these squares. How you're going to do it is you're going to do another line above this line and then another line on either one of these lines. So I'm going to do 2 more lines here, 2 more lines here. Okay, so watch, it'll all make sense once you see me do it. We want the boxes to be mostly even if we can. So we don't want big wobbly wavy lines. We want them pretty straight, at least as straight as we can get them. Just like that. So now I have a grid that's 4 by 4. That's what we're going for, is a 4 by 4 grid. Okay? So plus sign, and then a plus sign in each of the boxes. Think about it that way. Okay, now what you're going to do is you are going to use any random assortment of letters and numbers to fill in the box. The only rule is you cannot repeat letters or numbers. So if I have an A here, there cannot be an A anywhere else on this page. Okay, so you can choose whatever random assortment you want. I don't want it to say like your name or anything like that. I mean, it could have all the letters of your name, but spread out randomly on the paper. And you want to make sure you draw them big enough. You don't want tiny, like a tiny little A in there. Like, see how tiny that is? No, 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 no. We don't want tiny little letters. We want nice large letters. So let's try that again. Let's do an A in that box. Nice large letter. Okay, I'm going to continue to do random numbers and letters. And remember to do your best handwriting with this. This is not just like our normal handwriting that we have in the class. This is supposed to be for art, so this is something that's going to last forever. So you don't want to do your sloppy normal handwriting. We want to go slow and make our letters really nice. Okay, so at this point you need to show it to me, and if I say looks awesome, looks great, then you are going to move on to the next step, which is to Sharpie. So what you're going to do with the Sharpie, and how this is going to be a little different, is you don't need to Sharpie the lines of the grid. You just leave that be in pencil. We don't need to Sharpie those, okay? What you want to do is you're not just going to do this. Done, one pass. We want to make these a little bit thicker than how we drew them with pencil. So you're going to go over them a few times and make sure that they're thick. And if they look a little like sketchy and drawn, if your lines aren't super straight, that's okay. This part doesn't need to be super straight. But we just want to make sure that our letters are thicker. So I'm going over each stroke of the letter a few times. Same with the numbers too. We want them. Okay, so now that I have made all of my letters nice and thick and black, What I'm going to do next is we are going to use a crayon, or if you have oil pastels at home, you could use oil pastels for this. It doesn't really matter. You'll get the same effect either way. So I'm going to leave that up to you. If you have oil pastels, you can. I'm just going to use crayons for mine. Actually, you know what? I have oil pastels. I think I'm going to do that. I think I'll do both, so that way you guys can see what it looks like with oil pastels and what it looks like with crayon. So there are my crayons. Here are my oil pastels. Okay, so what you're going to do with the oil pastels or the crayon is you are going to do some patterns inside of the squares. You do whatever kind of patterns you can think of: stripes, polka dots, hearts, flowers, wavy line, bumpy lines, anything you can think of. You just want to make sure you try to do as many different types as you can. But I know that this is a lot of squares, so some may repeat. But if I say do stripes in this box, should I do stripes in the box right next to it? Yeah, probably not, okay? So if you do stripes down here, that's okay. But we want to try and do as many different types. If you get stuck, just ask for help, because I have a lot of different patterns that I can think of. When you're doing your patterns, you want to make sure you go around your letters. You don't actually want to go through them with the crayon or oil pastel. And do kind of like a fish scale type pattern, kind of like a mermaid's tail. When you're doing your patterns, make sure to show, for the hearts, make sure you show partial hearts too. It gives the illusion that there's more to this pattern than what we can see. So I have where you only see the bottom of the heart, or the top of the heart, or the side of the heart. So make sure you try and change it up like that. Okay, so now that I'm done with this, the next step is going to be to paint it. So I'm going to put my crayons and oil pastels away. I do not need them anymore. And now I'm going to paint. Now we've already done painting. Well, some of you have done painting already this year, so you guys know the drill for what we're doing. But some of you don't, so I'm going to do a little review. So you're going to take whatever paints you have, and you are going to set up your painting area. So to set up your painting area, you need to have a placemat, something to protect your desk, because obviously we don't want paint all over your desk. So I have my purple placemat here that I'm going to be using. You guys should have one that you made at the beginning of the year. If you don't have it, just ask me for one and I can give you one to keep for the remainder of this project. Okay? Then what you're going to do is you're going to get your paints out. So I have mine right here. And then you are going to get out your container of water. Now, for your container of water, you do not want it like this. And I'm going to explain why. If I take my brush and dip it in the water and then come over here, I'm crossing over my paper. That means that water that's on my brush could drip down and get on my paper. We don't want that. So when you set up your space, you want to make sure, whether it's on the left or the right side, that doesn't matter it matters for what handed you are. So if you're left-handed, it's going to go over here. If you're right-handed, it's going to go over here. I'm right-handed, so it's going to be on this side. So you want your water and your paints as close to each other as possible. I will also give you, or you can have, if you're doing this at home, a dish rag or a paper towel. I like to use old t-shirts that I cut up for a washcloth for watercolors because they work really well. But if you don't have that, that's okay. Just use paper towel. So we're going to go over the basics of how to paint. So for painting, what you are going to do is you are going to take your brush, you're going to dip it in the water, and right now, these paints, totally dry. Like, see if I take my finger, rub it in there, nothing's going to happen. They're not activated, they're not awake, they're all sleeping. We need to wake up our paints. So to wake up our paints, you take your brush, dip it in the water, and then pick out whatever color you want. Try to pick out a color that is different than the crayon or oil pastel you use. So this one's pink, so I don't want to use pink for the paint. I want to use a different color. And you can use multiple colors in the same box too. I think I'm going to do this like light blue that I have. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your brush and you're going to swish, 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 swish. You are not doing this. You're not jabbing your brush in there and like smushing it and like grinding it out. That is too hard. Watercolor is all about delicate. You just use the tip of your brush to swoosh it around. So you're just using just the tip to swoosh it around. Okay? Now, after you swoosh, you'll know that it's woken up when you start to see little bubbles. Now, I can hold it up to the camera, but you're really not going to see the bubbles. So just trust me, you'll start to see little tiny bubbles form. That's when it's awake and you can start using it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my brush and I'm going to start painting in my squares. And you can paint right over that oil pastel that we painted. And like I said, you can do multiple colors in the same box, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do some purple now. You want to make sure you clean off your brush between colors. Do some purple. Now, I don't want to see every single color in every box. We don't want to throw rainbows in every single box. You can do up to 2 colors in each box, okay? And to clean off your brush, you tap it on the bottom of your jar or container, whatever you have. You're gonna tap, 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 tap. If you don't want a lot of water on your brush, you don't tap it like that because you could splash water everywhere. You scrape it on the side of the jar like that. Okay, now I can move on to my next box. Now, if I just painted this box, should I paint this one or this one? Correct, I should not paint those You want to move in like a checkerboard pattern, like that. Then when I get down to my Q, I can go in and do my A and do all the ones I didn't do. Because this is wet. If I paint right next to something else that's wet, those colors could mix and blend together in a way that we don't really want. So we want to go in our checkerboard pattern. So I'm going to go now over to my B. Choose a color there. I'm going to do like this orange color. And you can paint right over that Sharpie that we did. That's totally okay. If you want to do 2 colors in a box, try to do colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. So if I did yellow, purple would not be a good choice to go next to it. You want to keep warm colors together and cool colors together. And if you're not sure if 2 colors will look good together, you can ask, but we have so many boxes that I just recommend just trying it. See what those colors look like together. And if it's not great, that's okay. Look at, you got all these boxes. You'll be totally fine. And if you just want to put 1 color in a box, that's fine too. Like this one, I actually think is going to look good if I do 1 color. When you hold your brush, make sure to hold it like you hold your pencil. How I was just holding it there, where I was holding it way back here, that's actually not a good place to hold it. You want to hold it just like you hold your pencil, okay? I actually have some other paints that I'm going to use too. So you're just going to keep going and filling in each of the boxes. Now, I'm not going to paint this one. I'm going to skip it and go to the next box. So that one needs, ooh, kind of like an electric orange, like a neon orange. I want that color. Okay, now we're going to go to the next row, to the opposite boxes. So now that I'm done and I have the checkerboard pattern done, now that I'm done with the Q, by the time I move back up here, this one should be totally dry. So now I'm good to move up in this corner, or up to your A, and then continue with checkerboard, and then by the time I finish A, get down to the S, the Q should be dry. Alright, and I'm done. Now make sure you upload it to Sonia and you are complete.